Hi guys and girls, Emma again. Welcome back to the spare room. This is where it's all happening. This is part 2 of the build project on these little hold down blocks. They're getting smaller. What we've done so far is we've got them to size this way, 5/8 of an inch, and we've got them to height that way is 6.625, and to length that way, which is 1 inch. So we've got 4 little blocks, and they're marked out. Oh, they're blued up, ready to mark out. And the next job, I guess, is probably to put these 2 holes in. This one's just tapped M5, and there's a grub screw comes down and clamps in the bottom of the T-way to lift this up against the T-slots. Now, there are different schools of thoughts on this, and I'm not going to go into that at all, right? This is the way I'm going to do it. To my mind, it's better to put a mark, if you're going to put a mark on your machine, in the bottom of the T-slot where it's not going to do a lot of harm and it's not going to break anything, than to put one on top of the table or up under the T-slots where you're going to break the overhang out. So that's why I've done it that way. It's also the easiest way, and it doesn't need a lot of work really. Basically it's just a tapped hole straight through the end, nice and square, and that job's done. This one's a bit more complicated. It's at a 15-degree angle, 105 degrees from horizontal, 90 degrees up there, so it leaves 15 left over. So these are swung over at 15 degrees. That's not a huge deal either. We'll get to that and we'll sort that out. But that is probably going to be M5 too, I would say. And they're a pretty simple little job. But that's probably next, is to mark these at halfway. And then mark them. This one here is 1/4 of an inch from the end, and the other one's 290 thou from the end for the angle. There's not much in them, so I'm going to put a texture mark on each end so we don't get them mixed up. And we'll look at drilling them. Now, before we go any further, I've had a bit of correspondence, and it's fun, and I really like to get notes and letters and messages and comments about things that I'm doing from you guys. And it's all cool. But the reason I'm doing these with the shaper, and with hand tools mostly, is that in the past there's been people who've said, this little shaper here, it's a bit old-fashioned, it's a bit outdated, it's not much good for anything, it's only a museum piece. Why are we bothering to even have it on the bench and spend money on it? And I just wanted to show that work like this, it can be done with machines like that. So it's all about entertainment too. This is really for they're useful workshop tools, but in reality this job's really only done this way for the video. So enjoy it, we'll have fun. I might learn something about shaping and about finishing up. I don't know if you'll learn anything, but it's fun to come along for the ride. Another thing that I've had comments on while we're on the job is measuring depths with a depth micrometer. This is a Goodall Pratt, Greenfield, Massachusetts. Beautiful little micrometer. If you've got something set up in the vise against a parallel, this is really probably the best way to measure the height of it. I like the depth micrometer. because it measures the right way around and it's got a good feel. Another way that you can do it is with a uni mic with the anvil removed. That's a pretty useful thing too for measuring for measuring heights. I think this is a bit more difficult to get a feel of, and it's difficult because of the leverage here. It's difficult when this comes down on the plate to feel whether it's lifting up or not. I really find it's pretty hard to really see. So see, that's below centre there, and you can't tell whether that's on there or not. So that's another way to do it. I don't like that as much. I really do like this little depth mic. Use it a lot. And this actually come from Keith Fenner. And many thanks to whoever donated this, because it's a beautiful tool. And it's something that gets a lot of use. Anyway, let's get on and mark these out. Really, we need to set the height gauge to inch and 5/16. These are 5/8 thick, 625, and the reason that I've made them pretty precise to dimension is that it makes it easy to mark all these bits out. So if we go over the height gauge and set it to inch, and so over here we need to set this up to half this thickness, which is 5/16 or 312.5 thou, something like that, plus an inch, which is the 1, 2, 3 block here that we're going to use for set out, because this doesn't drop down. What I'd really like is a scribe block on here that does drop down. The thing about that is that you've got to take an inch off the height, so it doesn't make a lot of difference. This is a couple of thou out, if we remember. So what I've done is set it here to 1.5 inches high, so that there's plenty of clearance and stuff here. And that job is done. So if we set him to 1 3/4, we can mark the crossways on all of them. And bear in mind that these aren't particularly critical dimensions anyway. They're sort of need to all be the same so they look good. Probably a set of Jenny leg calipers and a steel rule would be plenty good enough to set these up and to mark them out. But while we're on it, and we're on this accuracy kit for this job, let's make a bit of an effort to get them right. Now, let's mark all these back so that we don't get them mixed up. Other one's 290. That's an easy job, just to move this up another 40 thou. So there we go. That's our holes marked out. And we spend 20 minutes looking for a hammer and a prick punch just to get these right. Now I'm going to move the camera in because I need to be close for this sort of work, and the thing is, if I leave it out there, and it's all very well being able to see the whole workbench, that's cool, but all you can see is the top of my head, and that's not all that much fun. So there we go. We'll try that. So anyway, we're all set up here on the drill press. What we're going to do is drill them. I'm going to drill these and tap them M6. I think is about the best for the through ones, which means that they need to be drilled 5mm. I got a 5mm drill, and I got a 6.2mm drill there to put protected threads in. So I'm going to do this in stages. I've just set this up with a parallel in the little grinding vise. I'm going to just spot them carefully down with the center drill, and then go in 15-20 thou with the 6.2mm drill, and then drill them right through with the 5mm, and then we're sort of ready to tap them. Probably it's not all that critical how much under, but if we get them all the same, they'll look nice. So we're doing all the ones that at the end that's marked with B. And we'll just go through so they don't touch it anymore. So that it's not cutting anymore. These are a bit more tricky, the through holes. They come right through, so we want to set these up. Ideally on a couple of blocks would be really nice so you can drill right through, but because we don't have anything that's really going to answer, what I'm going to do is put this through so that it only just sits on this other jaw here and it's going to clear, and be fairly careful about that, like that, and tighten him up and then drill through. and so on. So there we go. You got a little bit of a recess there. Next job, probably there's a burr on there. I'm just going to take that off same way as I've been, with just a bit of wet and dry on that sheet of glass. So they sit down nice and flat and they're nice and square when I set them up again. And we'll look at tapping them. I actually ended up giving them a bit of a rub around with a deburring tool. This one isn't a Noga. I've got a Noga somewhere. It's in a cupboard over there. It's probably in my toolbox actually, but this one does the job. And they're not too shabby. So I guess while we're going with these, the next job is probably to tap them. The 4 holes through M6. And the most difficult part, of course, of the whole deal is finding the M6 tap, or one that's half reasonable. So here we go. I've taken the belt off the drill press and unplugged it. Nothing happens if we start it up. I'm going to put a bit of pressure on here with my arm and a little bit of cutting oil on the tap. I'll give these enough to start them here, which is a bit awkward. So when I've got these so that they're somewhere near started and not going to wobble around too much, and that's probably further than you can, a couple of turns further than you think usually. I'm going to slip this out of here. Just take him across the bench vise and run the tap all the way through, backing him off fairly regularly so that that's complete. And I'm going to do them all like that, so that's pretty straightforward. So there we go. The next stop, I guess, is to set these up at 15 degrees like this and drill the other hole. That's probably the difficult operation done then, and we can continue to shape these up. If we have a look, we've got these tapped through, a little bit of a safety edge there. They look pretty good. They're all nice and square, and they're M6. Let's have a look at setting these up, and we'll drill them and tap them pretty much the same, but we'll set them up, have a bit of a look. So here we go. This final hole in here It needs to be at 15 degrees pointing towards the front, or outways, which is about that angle. If you get a 60 degree square and a 45 degree square, or a 30 degree square and a 45 degree square, that gives you 75 degrees. Now off the 90 degrees, it's 15 degrees less and you've got 75, so that adds up. So I'll just put that in there nice and solid down on the base here, and I'll put the other one in here on the other side, and I've held all that in place while I've tightened it up. So that's the easy way to get 15 degrees. This vise is holding everything nice and square, and it's got good solid clamping force right across that edge, so nothing's going to move. The drill will wander though. I have put quite a big spot drill in there to start with, but I'm going to get the centre drill and just go down a little bit deeper already. And I'm going to drill right through at 3.7 millimeters, which is that drill, before we get them mixed up. And through at 4.2. And without taking this out and mucking it up, I'm going to go and tap them as well with M5. There's a little bit off camera here. I'm going to apologise for that. It's my hand. Rather than move the table up and down and move the drill press out of the way, let's do that. What we don't want to do is bust this little tap in here, because that will really wreck our night, because we'll only have 3 clamps then. That gives you some idea of the angle that it goes through there. Let's slip that out, and I might tap the others off camera, and we'll give them a bit of a clean up, and we'll come back and we'll have a look and see what we got. My poor hands. This is the last one. Probably I should look at finding some decent gloves like Tom Lipton wears. I meant to ask him about them, but didn't get there. They look pretty good though. Now, I've set these up with these Z-squares, which are fantastic, but they're not the world's cheapest tool. And just messing around, I checked them with this protractor, which everyone's got 3 of in the drawer. And that's probably heaps good enough to set them up. As long as they're sort of all the same, and you leave your protractor the same for the when we chop the middle out, it really doesn't matter. So as long as they're all the same, it doesn't matter much how you set them up. And that's probably as good as anything. So that's the last one done. I'm going to deburr this and give it a clean up. A bit of a fiddle with them. And let's have a look and see how they look. Anyway, it's the end of the night and I've got an absolute mountain of swarf here that needs cleaning up and a lot of tools that need putting away. But this is what I've got. I only had one grub screw that was 6mm. So I have to find some more. And I think probably those bolts are just a fraction long, or they're a lot long. And I have to find some of them too, but that's not a big deal. But there we go. They're all pretty close to the same. They all look pretty uniform. I'm really pleased with them. So that's the end, I think, of part 2. Thanks for watching, for being patient, for being kind, and for obliging me, because this isn't the world's easiest way to make these up, but they're going to be nice. And I wanted to do them sort of the manual old-fashioned way rather than the fancy surface ground within an inch of their life modern way. So these should be pretty nice. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and more soon, guys and girls.